Week 2 in college football has blessed us again. Another huge matchup, and actually the only ranked game of the weekend. We got the Michigan Wolverines traveling out to Norman, Oklahoma to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. This is two college football blue bloods going head to head, and two coaches that are in a very similar situation, and we got to talk about it. Now, this line, it opened up as Oklahoma as a 2.5-point favorite. Now, after last week, it has moved to 3.5 for Oklahoma. College football game day is going to be there. The atmosphere is going to be electric. This is a 4:30 kick Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, and if you're in the middle, you know how to do the math. Let's get into this game. But first, I'm George Wrighster, former NFL player, former college football player, college football analyst for CW, and here on the George Wrighster College Football Show, the Unafraid Show. We got to start coach versus coach. Michigan, Sherrone Moore, Brent Venables over there at Oklahoma. And these dudes have a lot in common because they were both longtime assistant coaches who were also former college football players. And they both have that hard-nosed mentality. They want to beat you up, they want to be physical, and they have a commitment to playing good defense and playing power football and running the football. That is in their DNA. So something's got to give in this game. Both of these coaches are under massive pressure to win because they took over highly successful programs. Lincoln Riley, his Sooners were a fixture in the college football playoff. And Jim Harbaugh and Michigan won a natty. No, they didn't air quote win a natty. They won a natty. Now, whether you believe that that's fair and square or not is a whole different story. But they did win the natty. That was after back-to-back trips to the college football playoff. So who has the edge in this game? Because both of these fan bases, they will turn on you quickly. Oklahoma in particular, because this is a pivotal year for the Brent Venables future and the confidence that the fan base has in him. On Sherrone Moore, wasn't there supposed to be a multiple game suspension happening this year? Well, here's the truth. Sherrone Moore's suspension, it was never going to be for week 2. Not only is it too important of a game because Michigan imposed the suspension, but they got to pick which games it was going to be. This is also Sherrone Moore's alma mater, and he played on the O-line for Bob Stoops. So if you don't think that this game means everything to him, he would have laid on the train tracks before he allowed them to suspend him for this game. Now, if college football has taught us anything, coaches, honestly, they have no qualms for beating up on their old schools. In fact, they kind of revel in it. Look at Kyle Whittingham. He never regrets beating BYU. Shane Beamer, he didn't seem to mind beating the Virginia Tech, his dad's old stomping grounds, where as a kid, he was VTech everything. And then you got Brent Venables. He never even got worked up about going 8-1 versus Kansas State Wildcats while he was the defensive coordinator for Oklahoma from 99 to 2011. So we think that Sherrone Moore is going to have any cares about beating up Oklahoma, especially when your job is on the line? No. That is always a resume builder, because if Oklahoma State's ever looking for another head coach, and the guy that beat them, who used to play for them, if you don't think he would get a head coaching call for that, then you got the wrong thing coming. Can the Michigan Wolverines help their coach get that win with a freshman quarterback? So we got to talk about quarterback 1 versus quarterback 1. We got Bryce Underwood versus John Mateer. Now, John Mateer, he's a guy who did not start till year 3 at Washington State, and he was still underrated after going into the transfer portal after he passed for 3,000 yards and rushed for over 800 yards last season. And he's going against a very hyped true freshman out of high school, a starter in Bryce Underwood. And granted, that freshman, Bryce Underwood, he looked very good against New Mexico. He looked poised, he looked accurate, he looked like he made good decisions, he had good touch on the ball. So when the kid said true freshmen don't normally do well, but they ain't never seen a true freshman like me, you can tell he believes that in his gut, that he believes it down in his core, and his confidence is sky high. Because against New Mexico, the kid went for 251 passing yards and threw a vicious lead block for his running back. So he ain't afraid to get his body, put it on the line either. And that's going to go over well with the team. But he is still going to be a freshman in his first hostile road start. And we saw what happened to Arch Manning versus Ohio State this last week. Granted, Bryce Underwood did get a game to warm up and everything, but when you go on the road for the first time and it is hostile, it is hard. So we are going to see how he responds to that. Now, on the other side of things, you got John Mateer, because he kicked off his Heisman campaign with a bang, because he's a guy that I have very, very high on the Heisman chart list. He threw for almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns while accounting for another rushing TD as well in their opening game against Illinois State. What? That is highly impressive. Mateer is a true dual threat quarterback. But the question is, has Michigan gotten better at containing accurate dual threat passing quarterbacks since last year's, 38-17 loss to Oregon? And Dillon Gabriel, he's a mobile quarterback. He ain't even a true dual threat. So this is going to be another stressor for this Michigan defense. But the question is, how do you beat Michigan? You keep John Mateer off the field and feeding their running back Justice Haynes in the running game. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. You know, I got to be honest, as the honesty broker, is that Michigan, even though that they dominated that New Mexico game, they were not great in all areas. They actually struggled holding on to the ball in returns. They had 8 penalties as well. And maybe those things end up coming to bite the Wolverines in the butt versus Oklahoma. But it gave them an opportunity to correct those things as well heading into Norman. So now we got to talk about that. The Oklahoma offense versus the Michigan defense. Oklahoma's offense is led by John Mateer, who we've talked about, but their offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, who's in his first season over there at Oklahoma as well. This was instant juice. 30 for 37, 392, 3 touchdowns versus Illinois State. Michigan even took vertical shots that they didn't take last year, and Keontez Lewis was the beneficiary. 9 catches for 119, 2 touchdowns. He and this offense are going to be a stress test for the Michigan corners. Now, on the other side, I know I told you that Oklahoma wants to be physical. Well, they were not able to run the ball as successfully as they wanted to versus Illinois State. Only 103 rushing yards on 32 carries. That ain't exactly what you want, and that's not going to be a great recipe for keeping Michigan honest on early downs and getting in 3rd and short. There's a matchup that I want you guys to pay attention to, and that is Ben Arbuckle, who I mentioned, who's the offensive coordinator, versus Michigan's defensive coordinator and Wink Martindale, because this is a huge moment in Arbuckle's career, because Wink Martindale is in his 39th year coaching football, and 20 of them were spent in the NFL. And Arbuckle is just 29 years old. So if Ben Arbuckle is going to be one of them boy wonder geniuses and get a head coaching job in his early 30s, these are the kinds of games that matter. Because what scheme can you throw against a defensive coordinator who has had massive success and has literally prepared for absolutely everything across a long career and can make in-game adjustments? That's going to be the key. Now on Michigan's defensive side as well, though, you got Sherrone Barham, who is going to be suspended for the first half of the Oklahoma game due to a targeting penalty that got called against New Mexico in the second half of Saturday night's season opener. And this was a questionable penalty.
First down. Humphrey in the backfield. Fake it to him. Lane's in trouble and he goes down. Barham got there. Ball came out. Barham scoops it and takes it in.
To say the least. Questionable penalty. Michigan said that they are going to appeal the suspension, but if it's not overturned, look for Jimmy Roeder or Cole Sullivan to be in Barnum's spot until he gets back in the second half. Now, let's talk about Michigan's offense versus Oklahoma's defense, because this is going to be painted as the Bryce Underwood coming out party. But if Michigan wants that, it is going to have to run the damn ball, because Michigan's ground hammer, it better travel, because that is what they are known for. And Justice Haynes showed out in his Michigan debut, 16 for 159 and 3 tubs. Now, if Michigan is able to control this pace of this game with runs and play action passes, then they are going to be able to quiet this crowd. Because the best way to get a quarterback in rhythm and to quiet the nerves of a young quarterback, easy throws, play action passes, which are going to create bigger windows and clear places to go with the football, cuts down on the decision making. And then once he gets in a rhythm, then you can go take more of the big shots and play your normal offense. And once they take those big shots, guys like Marlon Klein, Samaj Morgan, Channing Goodwin, they are going to have to make plays when the ball is in the air and given opportunities. They're going to be going against a defense led and called by Oklahoma's head coach, Mr. Brent Venables. He is going to be calling the plays in 2025. He is taking back that responsibility. That lets you know that there's an air of desperation there. Because when coaches are head coaches and they take play calling duties back, that's when you know that they're thinking in their head, I can do a better job at this. I can do the best job at this. And his history says he is a great defensive coordinator because he did it for a decade at Clemson at a very high level, and the same thing at Oklahoma prior to that. So the question is, will he be able to do the head coaching job and the defensive coordinator job great at the same time? I prefer my head coaches to not do that, but hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. But this atmosphere is going to be electric. It is going to be exciting. When you look at Brent Venables and his pressure packages that he's going to be putting in, Oklahoma, they can get more explosive plays at home. I am looking at this line. Oklahoma is a 3.5-point favorite at this time. The over-under in the game is 46.5, which means that they believe that this is going to be a slug fest. I am going to take the under 46.5 and Oklahoma 24, Michigan 20. This does not mean that Michigan is going to be a bad football team, but Michigan still does have a freshman leading them, and they are going to miss the college football playoff this year, but they are going to be a highly competitive team. And next year in 2026, that is going to be a team to look out for. But Oklahoma and Brent Venables are doing all the right things, and he is going to get himself off the hot seat and be a major threat in the SEC this year. Thank you guys for watching Unafraid Show, George Wrighster's College Football Podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, tell a friend about the show, and be one of us.